On this episode of Hudson Valley Hustle, I'm joined by Ron Cardillo of Toadstool Labs. They produce and sell medicinal mushrooms here in the Northeast and sell online and in over 50 stores. It's a great story. Ex-law enforcement turned business owner. You're not going to want to miss this one. Enjoy. So, medicinal mushrooms is not the same as
psychedelic mushrooms.
It's not.
Which is not the same as culinary mushrooms, which is not the same as poisonous mushrooms. So there's like 4 category mushrooms.
Okay.
And medicinal mushrooms are the ones that have been used for centuries to help people alleviate all kinds of different ailments, used in ancient China, ancient Japan for thousands of years.
I see some of the stuff that you brought there. I'm telling you, the first thing I thought of was The Last of Us. And I'm like,
don't break the bottle.
I'm like, yeah, keep them safe. So what's like, is there some legitimacy to that? It might sound stupid. I don't know.
So where that whole thing comes from is cordyceps mushrooms, and the way cordyceps mushrooms are grown, which we have. Yeah, there's 2 different types. One can grow on a substrate like grain, and that's like sort of the normal way mushrooms grow. But the other strain of cordyceps, they actually grow in an insect. So they kind of infest the insect and then basically feed on the insect, and then the mushroom grows out of the insect once it's fully destroyed.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then you eat that, and that's actually really good for you.
Really?
Yeah. So the 2 different species of cordyceps, you can consume them both. We have some of them here, and some of them are in the bottle, and they're actually really good for you. They're good for vitality, for strength, for endurance, sexual vitality. It's almost like natural Viagra.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I'm not going to take any right now.
Yeah. Well, we left you some, so let me know how it goes.
That's awesome. No, that's so cool. Stuff. How did you actually get into this? Because this, I feel like, is such a niche thing.
Yeah, it is a niche thing. My last life, I was in law enforcement. I was a cop, and during that course of what I was doing, I went to a natural checkup with my doctor, and he's like, "You're a cheeseburger away from a heart attack." So I was like, all right. I went home and I Googled healthiest diet, and what came up was this book by this guy, David Avocado Wolf. And I got into being a raw vegan. I was that for like 4 months, dropped 40 pounds. And at the same time, I got into medicinal mushrooms, and that was like 2007. And it changed my life. Yeah. One mushroom in particular, Reishi mushroom, during the course of being in law enforcement, saw some stuff and had like undiagnosed PTSD. Mm-hmm. And that one mushroom, the first time I took it, I actually wrote a blog post about it because it was like a warm blanket, just alleviated a lot of the symptoms of the PTSD and anxiety.
That's wild. How fast acting is it? Or is it like a slow burn?
Everybody's kind of different from their own metabolism, but I feel the effects pretty quickly. Yeah.
Really?
And some people feel, it really depends on the product you're using too. So typically people, if they have a clean diet, you can feel the effects within minutes. A lot of times we do demos, and or we're in farmers markets, and we give people a shot, a spoonful, and they'll walk away, and then within minutes they'll walk back and be like, "What'd you just give me?" Because they feel it. It's almost like your brain fog clears. You just have you're like upgraded. It's like you version 2.0.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
That's
and
crazy.
Especially the way that we make our products. We use a lot of the raw ingredients, so a lot of the mushrooms. It's an 8-day process, so it's an 8-day long extraction process. My co-founder, John, is up every 3 hours at night during the course of those 8 days, making sure that our batches are done the right way, because the wiggle room that you have to kind of screw up a batch, it's the threshold's very small. So
it's like an exact science.
It kind of is, yeah.
That's
it's like
crazy.
half science, half art.
So where do you guys primarily sell? I guess like
health food stores and online. Yeah, so we have about 50 health food stores around the Northeast that carry our products, and then we have an e-commerce store, and then we do farmers markets, things of that nature.
I was going to ask you to do farmers markets. It seems like a kind of a natural.
Yeah, it's kind of like
too.
Yeah, for our products, you have to like try it for it. Once you try it, it works, and you're like, oh, this is something different. Yeah,
gotcha. What percentage of the business is online versus?
I would say about 50% is online, and the other 50% is when we go out. But we're looking to grow that part, the online. Yeah.
When did you start it?
A couple of years ago. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you're a couple of years in. You're in 50 stores.
Yeah.
How did you do that? Or like, who's the salesperson? Who's the one going out?
Me. So what I did is I had a kind of like a niche way of doing it. I just looked up these stores, and then I sent them like what my kind of like version of Hogwarts was an invitation to. So we have like
You sent an owl? Is that what you
no,
did?
no, not an owl. But I have a wax seal of our logo of this.
Okay.
And so I like created a really cool letter, and then I wax sealed it, and I sent it them with some bottles in a really cool box. So when they opened it, it was like the letter was there, and it was like almost like I had a ton of people say it was like an invitation to Hogwarts.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah. And it's mushrooms, so it kind of like fits that theme. So that's how we got those stores. But
That's
it's
great.
not something you can do, you can't really scale that like large scale, but to get those, to get the shoe in. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of like the more of those like health food type stores, that kind of works though.
It does, yeah.
That one-to-one type
Yeah.
of a sales process.
Right.
But I know it's difficult to scale, but
It is, yeah. And the stores that do really well, so like all those stores aren't doing amazing. Some of the stores that do really well are usually the ones that have somebody in the store that uses our product. So I've been in and out of health food stores for years. I mean, when I started this in 2007, I was like, that's where I lived. That's where I shopped. And the stores that do well, the stores that thrive are the ones that usually have somebody dedicated in the supplement section. That if you walk in, you're a layperson, you're looking for something, they have that one person there designated to help them kind of like figure out what they're looking to alleviate or deal with. And the stores that don't usually don't do well, just in general.
right. Yeah, you kind of need that guidance, right?
You do, yeah.
Because if I was to start on that kind of a journey,
Right.
I'm relying on somebody like you to be like, no, this is
This is what you need, because there's a lot of stuff on a shelf when you walk in a health food store that you don't know what the hell.
or on the internet.
Or on the internet.
Like
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I know it's kind of how you kind of
Yeah, you got
it started, but
yeah, and navigating that for the end user, and then navigating that for having your own product, it's like finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
where you can like say, this is what we do, this is what
Right.
separates us from everybody else.
The packaged goods industry is really interesting to me. I've never actually. I've always been a service based guy.
Yeah.
But the packaged goods business is really interesting to me because I feel like it's very difficult to break into.
Yeah, it is.
And difficult to start. There's a lot of hoops you got to jump through,
Yeah.
and safety and protocol, and like, does the FDA get involved? Like, how does give me like the Reader's Digest version of like, how does somebody go from I want to sell mushrooms to it's on the shelf at a store?
There's basically two different ways to do it, and we chose the harder way, and the one that I think in the end will bear more fruit for us. So you can white label it, and that's like kind of the easy, dirty way to do it.
So somebody else makes it,
Right.
puts your label on it, and you sell it.
Yeah, you're off to the races, and you just need a minimum order and some cash to start. So, and they do everything else, right? It's a GMP facility, which is, it checks all the boxes that you want.
So you don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
You don't have to. We do, because what we did is we created our own manufacturing facility ourselves. So we have our own place in Vermont where we make everything.
Gotcha.
And the reason we had to do that is because you're not going to be able to find, well, one, it kind of like sets you apart from everybody else. Because 95% of the other companies are all white label.
Gotcha.
Like everybody, Mudwater, Rise, Life Cycle, all of them are white labeled, which means that they're coming from one or two or three, maybe four facilities tops.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of pick what you want and they make it for you, and then you're good to go. We do everything ourselves. So all the mushrooms are sourced in the U.S. We have really good relationships with the farms that we use. All the other ingredients are U.S.-based and organic. The mushrooms are organic as well. And then the time that we take to actually make our products you can't replicate that. Because no manufacturing facility is going to want to have a guy that's dedicated to sitting up every 3 hours at night making this stuff. It's just, you can't.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
the way we do it, we kind of have to do it that way.
Yeah. But I feel like that, like you said, it sets you apart from a lot of the
does.
major manufacturers. It's a really good selling point.
It is.
For what you guys do, because you know exactly where it's coming from.
Yeah,
whereas
quality
with somebody
control
else,
is like, that's
I imagine that's got to be like the most important thing when you're dealing with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't even imagine that. That's
Yeah.
wild. So, what did you start it with a partner, or did you start?
Yeah, my
start it on your
co-founder
own?
John. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
We had another co-founder who's not involved anymore, and that was a transition period that we had to work through because he was making the products at the time. Our other co-founder, John, had to pick up the pieces, and silver lining is we're actually making it better than we were before. So John and I now have a lot more leeway to create. We brought 2 new product lines out, the dual extraction and the Cordyceps. Before that, it was just 4. And I feel like it's actually better. So John really like put his like flavor on it, and it's good stuff.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
it's cool.
good.
Yeah.
How do you like the partnership aspect of business? Because I've heard mixed
It can be
stories
good.
about it.
I mean, like, it's almost like a marriage, you know? It's like, it kind of is, you know what I mean? Like, he's turned out to be one of my best friends now, and it's good, yeah.
Okay.
So we, like, you know, I have my strengths, he has his strengths. We're actually might be looking to, you know, bring on another partner eventually to fill other needs that we need. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Is a big part of what you guys do education? Because I feel like I'm just talking to myself anecdotally here, but like I know nothing about this.
Yeah, a big part of it is education. But, you know, 10 years ago, I would even say like 5 years ago, mushrooms were like, you know, you think of like portobello mushrooms or like the mushrooms you buy at a grocery store.
Or the other
kind,
ones,
right?
You know?
Yeah. So now you can actually go to like CVS and they're selling reishi mushrooms on the shelf. Not like the actual mushroom, but like, you know, a product of reishi mushrooms.
Like capsules and stuff? Or,
capsules, yeah. So now it's becoming way more mainstream. So that aspect of it is easier for us because people, like, it's common knowledge now. Right. It's kind of like getting to...
You don't have to tear down this wall that... you know,
right.
of knowledge that nobody had before.
Now it's just a matter of like, we want to direct our efforts to people that are already in the market. So like the low hanging fruit for us are people that are already using medicinal mushrooms, but they're looking for maybe something else or to see what else is out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe has an appreciation for more of like a refined product, like not a white label product or something that's been made somewhere else without control or that one.
Or somebody that really wants to have the best and feel the effects. So some people, like, you know, they use mud water, they're like, yeah, you know, I kind of feel something. It's kind of like, yeah, it kind of works, kind of doesn't, you know. I don't want to mean to pick on mud water, but a product of that nature, it's kind of like you kind of feel it, kind of don't. I feel like with our stuff, like I've been consistent in using, especially like dual extraction, which is all the mushrooms together. And it's that specific batch has been sitting in a vat for 4 years, the mushrooms of alcohol. So it's really, really strong.
Pretty potent?
Yeah, it's very strong. And it tastes really good too. So you can like add it as like a kind of like a cocktail as well. But I use it every day and I
do you just like take it?
Well,
like, or can you mix it in things? Or
you can totally mix it in anything. Yeah. So there's two kind of different delivery systems we have now. One is a syrup. So it's made with
these?
Okay. There's 5 using wildflower honey, rosehips, ginger, and orange peel. And then the other one has the dual extraction, has all 4 of the mushrooms plus alcohol, which is a dual extraction.
Okay.
And that is like my favorite now. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The other ones are just a hot water extraction using, like I mentioned, the wildflower honey, rosehips, and ginger. Some of them have orange peel.
So they have like a flavor to them, right?
Yeah, they all taste totally different, which is cool. And the difference in the taste is strictly and solely from the mushrooms, which is kind of wild. Yeah, chaga mushroom tastes totally different, like reishi. So the chaga kind of tastes like chocolatey. The reishi is a little more bitter, like an espresso. The lion's mane has its own taste, which is really good. It's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it's nuts.
So if somebody, so pretend that I don't know anything about mushrooms.
Yep.
Which I don't.
Yep.
Like, what's the first thing you got to tell me about getting into this or trying it or trying to improve my well-being?
I would say, like, what is the one thing that you're looking to address? So, like, one of our best products is the lion's mane, and that's for clarity. It's for nerve health, clarity of mind, right? So it's like a nootropic. Nootropics help you think clear. Memory focus, concentration, nerve health. That's what like the lion's mane's for. And who doesn't want that, right? Who doesn't want to be able to think clear, kind of alleviate the brain fog? That's the one product I usually tell people to try first because that's the one you kind of feel. But if you have somebody that's dealing with like anxiety, you could try the reishi or sleep issues. The blend of chaga, reishi, and turkey tail is great for immune system. The chaga alone by itself is great for somebody who has inflammation. So it kind of really depends on what you're looking to address. Mm-hmm. And then as far as like, if you're going to use just, I would say for somebody that's never really got into this, just use something because medicinal mushrooms are great and they do work and they've been used for millennia and they will help build and fortify your immune system. They will help alleviate, kind of brain fog. They will help with inflammation. They do work. And that's why there's been a renaissance now, but they've been used in Chinese tonic medicine for, literally 2,000 years, 2,500 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you're just bringing it to...
Yeah, they're just kind of having a renaissance now. Yeah, they're becoming... everybody's kind of had a hand in that. Joe Rogan interviewed this guy, Paul Stamets, who's one of the biggest medicinal mushroom companies in the world. He's famous because he has a hat made of mushrooms. Okay. That's how people know him. But yeah. So it's becoming a lot more mainstream.
Gotcha. I'm not gonna lie. When I saw your name, I was like, "Oh, he's a Mario guy."
No.
I'm a video game guy, so the Toadstool and like everything. I was like, "Oh, Sweet, yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Mushroom Kingdom, man. This is great.
Yeah,
This will
it's
be
cool
fun.
stuff. Yeah.
No, it's wild. It's actually kind of surprising how deep this rabbit hole does go.
Yeah, it depends how deep you want to go. I kind of really went deep down the rabbit hole, but yeah.
But you did that from a personal experience because
Way
you
before
personally
I thought I was going to have a company, yeah.
right. So because you benefited from this yourself, and then thought, what made you think, hey, mushrooms worked for me? I want to bring it to the world.
So John's sister is Paulina, who's sitting there, and happens to be my girlfriend too. So the way this kind of whole thing happened is I've been taking it as a consumer for years, like 15 years or whatever, how long it's been. And then John, through Paulina, was like, hey, I got this buddy of mine who's making this mushroom syrup in Vermont. You want to try some? And at the time, I consider myself like a mushroom connoisseur because I've been using medicinal mushrooms forever. So I was like, all right, we were talking about it back and forth. I was like, have him send me some. And he sent me the mushrooms, the Reishi mushroom syrup, and I was like blown away because at that point I've tried almost everything in the market. Like you don't understand. Like at one point I was spending like thousands of dollars a month on supplements and like trying to find like, and you could spend a lot of money on supplements. I mean, like there's a guy who sells, who actually taught me about Chinese tonic medicine. He sells a bottle of ginseng that he only makes a couple of times a year or he makes one that he makes a couple of times a year, but then he makes one he makes every few years, and it's $1,500 for a 1.8 milliliter bottle of ginseng for $1,500. That's crazy. And he sells out within like an hour.
That stuff will make you remember like your past life. Like,
Yeah,
that's crazy. Right? Is ginseng? No. What am I thinking of? The ginseng is good for what?
Ginkgo biloba is what you're thinking.
See, I couldn't even remember it. Maybe I need some. Maybe I need some. Of that.
Ginseng is like a very spiritual kind of like, it's a kind of mystical thing, and it's good for like alleviating your past karma, but it's also good for energy. It depends how like esoteric you want to get with it. So there's like two different schools of thought.
Gotcha.
I can go really down that rabbit hole.
That's awesome, man. So you got you really went.
I went very far. Yeah.
So what was there one thing in particular that made you want to learn about this? Because what was happening with you that made you want to kind of get on that path of?
There was two kind of like at that time when I left being a cop. Like it was around the time when I was getting ready to leave. Two kind of doors open to me, and one was kind of like the spiritual, learning about consciousness, meditation, and I went equally down far that rabbit hole as I went down the Chinese tonic herbs, and they kind of like coalesce and they kind of do. There's a lot of synergy between those two, so I went equally down those two rabbit holes together, and one helped me with the other. So reishi mushroom has been used in ancient Chinese medicine to help get into a deeper states of meditation. So the more I took it, the more I was like, holy shit, I can really, I don't know if I can curse, sorry.
You can, that's fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Go for it. Yeah.
So
the hat's backwards, dude. The wheels are off. Like, let's go.
So the more I took that, the more I was able to get into these deeper states of meditation. So the more I kept on learning about it because it was helping this other kind of like path I was going down.
Gotcha. Was it a mental health thing? Was it a physical health thing?
Everything. Yeah. It helps you fire on all cylinders. So it helps calm you down if you have anxiety, which I do. Especially the reishi, that really helps. And the more I learned about it, the more I was like, wow, this can really help me and other people. So I was learning about Chinese tonic medicine. I was learning about Chinese medical qigong, and at the same time, I had the martial arts path and meditative path. They all kind of like coalesce and work together.
Gotcha. Interesting. So one thing that always kind of fascinates me is, and it's not just mushrooms, I guess it's with anything that grows and comes from the ground. I always think of like the first person to see that and be like,
try it out.
I'm going to eat that, see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, do you know the history of that, of at least with your stuff at all? Because somebody had to try this stuff for the first time, right?
Yeah. So like Rogan has a whole theory behind that of like how we like went from like the missing link. And he thinks that was because of medicinal mushrooms. Sorry, not medicinal, psychotropic mushrooms. Yeah. So the people that had to, our ancestors that had to figure all this stuff out. How many?
Because some of them are deadly, right?
I mean, there's a lot of them that's deadly. Yeah. So how many of those had to, people had to eat to find the ones that like worked? Yeah. So there's kind of like a hack that you can kind of think of, and I by no means like use this, walk in the middle of a forest and try it. But if it grows on a tree, dead or alive, it's kind of safer than if it grows out of the ground. Yeah. So mushrooms that grow on grass or like in the ground, you got to really know what you're doing. The ones that grow on dead trees or living trees, a lot of these, all of them grow on dead or living trees. You're kind of safer. But yeah, like, how many people had to kind of like
find out the hard way?
Yeah, find out the hard way. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's
kind of interesting.
It's amazing we're all still here. Like it really is. Like if you think about it.
Yeah.
I have a funny story about growing on trees, right? So so I come from a Italian background. Both of my parents were born in Italy. My grandparents were born in Italy, right?
Yep.
So what parts?
Naples and Monreale, Sicily.
All right, my father's Naples, my mom's Calabria. So
that's awesome. My dad's from Naples too.
Oh, there you go. So we
paisans.
Yeah, we're probably cousins at some point.
Probably.
So my grandmother, the Calabrian side, she like obviously big into food, big into mushrooms. Like whether it was like canning them, using them to cook, just pickling them, whatever it was, like anything with mushrooms, I hate it. Like I wasn't a fan. I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
So I remember one time I must have been in like maybe middle school. I was with my grandparents in the car. They were driving us home, and my grandmother made my grandfather stop the car
because she saw mushrooms.
She saw mushrooms on a tree. She saw mushrooms on a tree, and I'm like, holy shit, that's like my best friend's house. My grandmother,
was out there.
Whatever age she was, gets out of the car with a gigantic fucking knife, just starts cutting mushrooms off of this kid's tree. I'm like, I'm in the chair,
sinking in your chair.
Oh my god!
But
it did always amaze me of like how she knew.
Yeah. You're kind of like mushroom radar. The more you get into this, kind of like, you know what I mean. Especially John, man. Like wherever we're driving, he's like, oh, it's there, and he like points him out. He's really good at it.
Gotcha. You said your stuff is sourced from the United States, so a lot of the stuff they grow in farms, I assume. Then, right?
Yeah. So we use certified organic farms. Okay. Yeah, we're not like going out in
the wild, like with a pig or something, like trying to find.
There are actually some companies that do that, and that's cool. But we really want the quality control. We want to make sure it's grown in an organic environment, and we rely on our farms.
But that also helps it scale too a little bit, right?
Yeah,
I think it's more scalable.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
because if you're just relying on
somebody going out in the middle of the forest, and then it's also like if we have a dry season, then the yield for it's not going to be that great. So
got you. Okay.
Yeah,
right, because it needs
now.
moisture, right? Like you need.
It does, yeah. So this this. I think we had a pretty bad yield this past year because it was a drought.
Gotcha. Okay.
But our farms don't have to worry about that, so that's good.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So what's something that you learned going into business, because you were in law enforcement before, probably had very little business background if I had to guess.
Well, actually, I left law enforcement and I kind of skipped over a big part.
Okay.
So I went from law enforcement into running a business with my family that we grew in scale. Yeah, but totally weird segue. I went from being on a SWAT team, literally, to selling hair extensions. For a company called SoCap that my family started in 2000. So we imported and distributed hair extensions to salon professionals. We did that for 15, 20 years almost.
Okay.
So I helped them grow that business, and that's where I learned.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That connects the law enforcement to the business thing. Okay, now we get it.
Yeah, so but I was, in my personal life, I was down those two rabbit holes of learning about it while I was doing this other thing. Yeah.
Right. So, but now running the business side, because a lot of times what happens, and I talk about this all the time, is people love their thing, they love their passion, they love this, but they're not passionate about the business side, which you have to equally understand.
Yes, you do.
To keep this thing alive, right?
Yeah.
So
you can be passionate about something, but if you don't know, how to be a good operator as a business person, then it's kind of like you have to have both parts. Or
you don't know how to sell, or you don't know how to run a bank account, or it's because you're doing all that stuff, especially in the beginning,
right?
So your team now, how big is the team now?
Right now it's just me and John.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so I imagine it's easier to make things happen when the team is smaller, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's
when we had running the business with my family, at one point we got to 25 people. So, and my dad's old; he was running it, so it was a family-owned business. Yeah, the matriarch of the company running it, so it's he was all decisions went through him. So and he's old school, stubborn Guinea. So.
He's Napolitan.
Yeah, he's Napolitan. Yep.
They're tough.
Yeah, they're tough. My mom was, from Monreale, from Sicily, so that's a whole nother level of crazy too. So,
yeah, the Sicilian side I don't know too much. I know kind of the middle and the south end, but I don't know the part that's not attached. You know what I mean? That's funny. Yeah. So
they're both off the boat.
Yeah, I love that. So I feel like there's something about that off the boat mentality.
Yeah.
That is, you come to America, you start a business.
Yep.
That's just that's what my grandfather did. It's what both my grandfathers did. They both came here with very little.
Yeah.
One went into dry cleaning and tailoring.
Yeah.
The other one went into construction.
Yeah.
And they had their own business.
My
That's what they did.
grandfather was a tailor.
Was it?
Yeah, that's awesome.
What was his name?
He's a Cardillo. Yeah.
Okay.
So Nicholas
All right.
Cardillo. Yeah.
Yeah. Giuseppe Amato was my grandfather. Came here. He was a tailor. Opened up a dry cleaning shop in the Bronx, and
Yeah.
that's where I started. My other
I'm
grandfather.
telling you, our parents probably know
They
each
probably
other.
know
They
each
probably
other.
do. Because
That's
my
so
dad lived in the
crazy.
Bronx too, and then he moved to Fleetwood.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
My grandparents had a place right off Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, and
Awesome.
that's where they were.
Oh, that's a good place to have if you're Italian. A place in Arthur Avenue.
Yeah, it's different now.
Yeah, it's
they don't
different
have it
now.
anymore. My grandfather passed. My grandmother sold
Yeah,
the
it's
place, but
changed.
it's definitely changed quite a bit. But I remember going there as a kid.
Yeah.
And my grandmother just walking with me and my sister around Arthur Avenue like it was nothing. Just
Yeah.
like walking into the meat market and everything. It was just
Yeah.
like you walked everywhere. It was just a very different
atmosphere.
time. But
Yeah.
but there's something about, I'm telling you, it's in my blood.
Yeah, me too.
And you just can't shake it, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know about you, but I could never go back and get a job. I feel like if
Work for somebody else?
Yeah.
No, I can't. There's no way.
So wait a second. So I gotta ask then, because like the law enforcement thing is, you always report to somebody, right? Pretty much.
But so that was like an aspect of my life where I always wanted to do that, and it was kind of like a box I had to check.
Okay.
You know what
All
I
right.
mean? But once I was in it, and I was like, and then I saw, my dad always worked for himself, and my sister always helped my dad. And I had two sisters. So one basically started with my father, and that's all she knows. That's all she did for a long time, like almost her whole life, adult life. And my other sister was working as a controller for another business. So the same time she left doing that, I left being in law enforcement. We all kind of came together for SoCap and did that.
Okay.
For years, yeah.
Because entrepreneur and
Law enforcement.
I feel like, one is like, I don't want to take orders from anybody.
Yeah.
And the other one is,
Well, as a cop, you kind of are on your own for somewhat of it.
Yeah.
You are answering to somebody.
Yeah.
And in business, you are answering to somebody. You have to answer to your customers, right?
sure.
Yeah. So
Sure.
there's always that aspect of it.
it's the authority thing though.
Yeah.
At least for me, I can tell you, for me, like I don't like when somebody tells me what to do.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that. Like, so.
Yeah, but as a cop, you're kind of like you're on both ends, right? So you do always have a supervisor, but
Okay.
you're also kind of like, there's the aspect of like helping people, which I always wanted to do. I always wanted to be a cop when I was a kid. So I think it was one of those boxes I had to check.
I mean, it's good. And listen, I appreciate you for doing that, because
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for law enforcement. You guys have a very difficult job. That is.
It was different then than it is now. Now it's even harder, I mean,
Yeah.
for different reasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But you're happy doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I love what I'm doing. Yeah. Yep.
So you were somebody that kind of took the thing that you went
We're
all in
passionate
on,
about. Yeah.
and you turned it into
Business.
a successful business, and
Yeah.
you're selling all over the country. And
Well, not yet, but hopefully, yeah.
Where's
well,
your-
as
what
far
were
as
your-
e-commerce.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Where are the stores mainly in the Northeast, you said?
Yeah, Northeast. So New York, Connecticut, Vermont, some Massachusetts. Yeah.
Okay. And can somebody, like, are your stores listed on the website?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So on the website, you go to find us, and all the stores are listed.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really cool. Is there anything else people should know about either Toadstool Labs or mushrooms in general? Do you want to show me a couple of things there, like, so we can get a couple of shots of them too? Because
so we actually brought actual mushrooms because, people don't realize they're actually kind of beautiful. I think too.
it's wild.
Yeah. So this is a reishi mushroom. We have some turkey tail. So this is what a turkey tail mushroom looks like. And then we have some dried. Lion's mane looks a lot more beautiful than this in the wild. So these are kind of like dried out.
Okay.
And then there's
Is that high enough, Tom? For okay, cool. Yeah.
And then I have a piece of.
It's only because you're going off mic too, so we want to make sure you're on the mic.
And this is a really small piece of chaga. So
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's crazy.
yeah, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, they look wild.
They look wild. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm telling you, man. I keep thinking of that freaking video game.
Yeah, and then there's Cordyceps in here, so I don't know. It's probably hard to tell, but yeah. And you can actually the wild thing about this one mushroom is you can just pop this open, and you can eat it.
Is that right?
Yeah, and it's pretty good.
Interesting. What's this for?
Strength natural Viagra.
Why'd you take it? This is not that kind of show.
Yeah, it's good.
That's
stuff.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, congrats on everything. This sounds like
appreciate it, man.
like a wild business to be in.
Yeah,
and,
it's cool.
I think you should definitely let people know where they can shop from you. And
Yeah, our website's toadstoollabs.com, and then we're at a bunch of stores around the Northeast. Yeah,
good for you,
find
man.
us on Instagram, Facebook.
Cool. All right, man. Well, this is great. Anything else you want to share before we?
No, I appreciate you having me here. Thank you so much.
This was fun. I learned quite a bit.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right, man.
Thanks.